The thunderbird.
In the history of the natural world to the supernatural, I found many weird things. But just because I don't know what it is doesn't make it supernatural. While the true heart of science is to always question even yourself. In the end, I have become an objective atheist. I am an atheist, but I want there to be more.
Either thunderbird, pterodon, pterodactyl. The term is used in cryptozoology to describe a large, bat-like creature, generally identified with the thunderbirds of Native American tradition. Similar cryptids reported in the Old World are often called rocks. Thunderbirds are regarded by a small number of researchers to have lizard features like the extinct pterosaurs, such as the pterodons. Reports of thunderbirds sightings go back centuries, and the fossil record does show the giant birds, pterotorns, with wingspans of 12 to 18 feet, were likely contemporary with early man. Today, the creature is generally regarded as a myth. In the middle 1830s, Don Pedro Carrillo purchased the land around La Laguna del Diablo and built a hacienda, barn, and corral by the water. He disregarded the superstitions about the place, but just 3 months after construction of his ranch was completed, he abandoned the place. He stated that there were supernatural beings nearby and refused to live there. The land remains idle for the next 2 decades, and even after the Americans came to the region, the lake was shunned as a cursed spot. Some years later, Don Chico Lopez settled on the property, and what occurred next was told in a manuscript by Don Guillermo Montesero, who was a guest at the Lopez Ranch. According to Don Guillermo, a great agitation took place during his visit. Around noon one day, Lopez's foreman, Chico Vasquez, rode up to the hacienda very upset. He told of strange happenings at the lake, and everyone saddled their horses and rode out to the shore. They arrived to find the water calm and quiet, but Lopez began berating his foreman for bothering them with their foolishness. Then stopped as a terrified scream came from the same bush at the edge of the lake. The plants whipped back and forth, and the account stated that they were so close to whatever was lurking in the brush that they could smell its foul breath. The men were startled when their horses reared up, and they began running in fright. As they brought their horses back under control, the men turned and looked back to the lake. Silhouetted against the sky was a large creature with enormous wings. The creature flapped them over and over again as it tried to rise from the mud. It soared and screamed and churned the water all around it. The horses and the men fled in panic. The next morning, all of the Vasqueros on the ranch were mustering armed and sent down to the lake to investigate. There was no sign of the winged monster, but it was said that the smell of it still lingered in the air. In 1883, the Lopez horses and cattle began to vanish. At first, bears or wolves were thought to be responsible, but then one night, there was a terrible uproar in the corral. When the Vasqueros came running, they found 10 mares and fowls had been slaughtered. They said that outlined against the sky, they saw a huge flying creature as it flapped away into the darkness. Don Chico Lopez promptly sold out and moved away from the area. Then in 1886, the newspaper reported more strange happenings at Lake Elizabeth. The reporter stated that a creature had been feeding on cattle, horses, sheep, and chicken, and had caused terror and excitement among the local inhabitants. On one occasion, the beast had tried to devour a large steer, but as the animal bellowed and kicked, the sound attracted the attention of its owner, Don Felipe Rivera. The steer put up a fierce fight and managed to free itself. The angry creature then retreated, but not before Rivera got a good look at it. He said that it was at least 45 feet long and had wings that laid flat on the back when not extended. He pursued the monster as it started towards the lake and fired at it with his Colt revolver. Rivera said that when the bullets hit the monster's side, it sounded as if they were hitting a great iron kettle. There was a story that in April 1890, 2 cowboys in Arizona killed a giant bird-like creature with an enormous wingspan. It was said that it had a smooth skin, featherless wings, like a bat, and a face that resembled an alligator. This description has some similarities to that of the prehistoric pterodactyl, an animal whose existence was known at the time. They were supposed to have dragged the carcass back to town, where it was pinned with wings outstretched across the entire length of a barn. A picture of this event may have been published in a local magazine, the Tombstone Epitaph. But Don Felipe was nothing if not enterprising, and he made immediate plans to try to capture the creature and sell it to the circus. He even signed a contract with the Sells brothers, who agreed to pay him $20,000 to deliver the beast to him alive. Don Felipe never managed to capture the creature, although it was reported seen several times in 1886. The creature was last seen, according to Harris Bell, winging away to the east. Since then, he wrote, it has never been seen in any native valley because it was found and killed 800 miles from Lake Elizabeth, as approved by the article that appeared in the Epitaph, Tombstone, Arizona. Bell then goes on to quote from the article, which he apparently saw and provide details of the story. However, he does not say the event occurred in 1886. As many believe, he provides a follow-up story which is about the Tombstone article that appeared in the Los Angeles newspaper in 1890. For this reason, it's safe to assume that the thunderbird, if it really existed, was killed at some point between 1886 and 1890. The article states that 2 ranchers sighted an enormous flying creature in the Arizona desert between Whetstone and the Huachuca Mountains. The beast resembled a huge alligator with an extremely elongated tail and an immense pair of wings. According to their story, the creature was greatly exhausted and was only able to fly a short distance at a time. The men who were on horseback and armed with Winchester rifles pursued the creature for several miles before getting close enough to open fire on it and wound it. The creature then turned on the cowboys, but due to its exhaustion, they were able to keep far enough away from it until a few more shots could kill it. An examination of the creature showed that it measured 92 feet in length and that its greatest diameter was about 50 inches. It had only 2 feet situated a short distance in front of where the wings joined on the body. The beak, as near as they could judge, was about 8 feet long, and its jaws were set with strong, sharp teeth. They experienced some difficulty trying to measure the wings as they had folded up underneath the body of the monster after it had fallen, but eventually unrolled one of them. It was an incredible 78 feet in length, giving the beast a wingspan of about 160 feet. The wings were as thick, nearly transparent membrane that had no feathers or hair on it. The wings was relatively smooth, though had been easily penetrated by their bullets. The ranchers cut off a portion of the wing and took it with them, perhaps as proof of what they had seen. After arriving in Tombstone, they spread the word of the creature and made plans to return to the site where it had fallen, and they had to skin it. They planned, the article stated, to offer the hide to eminent scientists for examination. They returned to the site to bring the creature back to town. And here the article ends. There are no details of the body being brought to town and no mention whatsoever of any photograph being taken. The story of the Thunderbird was relegated to the ranks of creatures like the jackalope until 1963, when the story was revived. In May 1963, an issue of Saga, a man's magazine of the day, writer Jack Pearl recounted the story of the Tombstone Thunderbird, along with some large bird sightings of the early 1960s. Not only did he tell the story, though, he went one step further. He claimed that the Tombstone Epitaph had, in 1886, published a photograph of a large bird nailed to a wall. The newspaper said that it had been shot by 2 prospectors and hauled into town by wagon. Lined up in front of the bird were 6 grown men, their arms outstretched. Fingertip to fingertip, the creature measured about 36 feet from wingtip to wingtip. Among the most controversial reports is a July 25, 1977 account from Lawndale, Illinois. About 9 p.m., a group of 3 boys were at play in a residential backyard. 2 large birds approached and chased the boys. 2 escaped unharmed, but the third boy, 10-year-old Martin Lau, wasn't so lucky. One of the birds reportedly clamped his shoulders with its claws and lifted Lowe about 2 feet off the ground, carrying him some distance. Lowe fought against the bird, forcing it to release him. In 2002, a sighting of a large bird-like creature with a wingspan of around 14 feet was reported in Alaska. The Anchorage Daily News reported a witness describing the creature like something out of the movie Jurassic Park. Scientists suggest that the giant bird may have been a Seller's sea eagle, which have a wingspan about 6 to 8 feet. There's also been previous reports of similar creatures in the same area around that time. Paranormal reality series Destination Truth traveled to Manakatak in 2009 to search for the creature. As recently as 2007, sightings have been claimed in the area around San Antonio, Texas. Some cryptozoologists have theorized the ancient thunderbird myth to be based on sightings of a real animal with a mistaken assessment of its apparent size. Keep in mind, birds strong enough to lift a small child off the ground do exist. Luckily, they are rare, and they don't show a desire to do so. So it is not impossible for thunderbirds to exist. I actually think that this story may relate, at least the most part of it, to one of the last of a mated pair that did exist. If it is another of the dinosaurs that survived, a little more difficult to take, but still, as the last of very few, I will accept it. Ask the buffalo how well we treated them when we showed up. Thank you.